Welcome back to Real, Raw, and Relatable with Steve Buckler and my special guest, Kat John.
Oh, okay, you're just going to keep playing into that, are you?
You know what? As long as you keep getting triggered by it,
I'm not triggered.
I will keep delivering it.
Not triggered.
So today on the show, I have a special guest, which is Kat. Thank you for being here.
It's my absolute pleasure.
And
I hope you look forward to editing this and then uploading it and putting words to it. That's you're going to do that too?
I've outsourced. I've outsourced.
Is that to me? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So when I have people on the show, we like to start off by just talking about what we've liked and what we haven't liked this week in our relationships. And since you're in a relationship with me, then I guess we'll be talking about the same relationship. So welcome, and I'll hand over to you now.
What I have liked, or do you want me to give the negative first?
It's up to you.
Okay.
I'm not a controlling host.
Oh, okay. It actually leans in perfectly to what I have liked is you and I have been very playful the last 24 hours, especially the other day when you really pissed me off after we stopped at 7-Eleven. And what did you say to me?
You were carrying the Coke.
I was carrying everything cold.
Yeah.
It was really cold.
And you were whinging about it. And I said, stop.
You said,
stop whinging.
That's right. And as a result of that, I thought, I might try and trip up Steve, who also had a handful of stuff. And I did it successfully. You didn't fall. You turned around and you said, did you just try and trip me? And then you and I literally stood in the middle of the pathway dying of laughter.
Yep.
So I loved that.
Yep.
Love that. What I haven't loved about our relationship is that the way you're looking at me is really funny. Stop it. What I haven't loved is you have been on your phone a lot. Why are you laughing?
It's good because this is, you're clearing, and I haven't really heard about this before.
Yeah, and I found it a bit annoying that like last night at dinner beforehand, I was like, oh, I'm worried he's going to be on his phone, and then so might Mia, and that I have to pull you up before we go to dinner to say, like, could you not be on your phone? So yes, that's what I haven't enjoyed.
Yeah. So that leans into, I guess, prejudging things before they happen, but that's a separate episode, which we won't cover today. But
what about you?
Thank you for sharing.
That's okay.
What I haven't liked
is
how much you've been working.
Okay.
Because then I'm bored.
Oh, so you miss me.
I have no one to play with, and it's not fair.
Okay.
What I have liked is one of the best things for me this week was about 30 seconds ago, watching your ego lose its mind as I take control of your podcast.
So you are a controlling host.
Oh, it's just brought me joy. Like, it's just like dialing in the buttons. Boop, boop, boop. Awesome.
Cool.
Great clearing. So today, we take it in turns when we get together.
Yeah, last month was my turn that I wanted to share that topic.
Yeah, correct. And then we sometimes we feel that together. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I've got an idea. We're going to roll with mine.
You were downstairs. I texted you a few ideas, and you're like, nah, I think I've got something. And I'm like, okay.
So what I wanted to talk about today with everyone, and we'll obviously refer it back to ourselves, is the concept of that in a relationship, it requires never ending until end of days work if it's going to be successful. And it was funny because I was at gym the other day and I was sitting there doing my fucking reps, and there's this concept that nothing's ever static. You know, it's either growing or it's dying. And I was thinking about it in relation to muscles, right? Because if you stop working out, your body will not retain muscle mass. Your body will lose muscle mass, right? So you have to keep working at it. And then I was like, okay, well, the same thing happens like in relation to finance. Like if you stop focusing and working on your money, right, then you're not investing or you're not focusing on it. And so it will, even if you just use the concept of inflation, which is, the price of stuff goes up, then your money will go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just interesting. It was almost like this universal dynamic of
Right. Where you can apply it to most areas, all areas.
correct that
Yep.
everything that you want to have success in life requires ongoing work.
Yep.
And then I was like, the same thing is true of relationships
Mm.
because you can have a good relationship and then stop putting in work, and that relationship will deteriorate. It might not
Mm.
like collapse,
Mm.
but it won't be as good
Mm.
if you stop showing up and putting in.
I reckon I had and maybe this is relatable to a lot of others. I had an idea, an ideal, a fantasy, probably a fantasy, that when you met the right person, it'll all just work. You know, that like, or if you did all the work in the world on your shit, uh, you would have a perfect relationship. And it's a real fucking reality check when, even though I believe that I've met my person, being you, um, God damn it, it's a lot of work.
Hmm.
And that bubble, I guess, burst when I was sort of, into our relationship thinking, when does the effort stop? When does the choice stop? When does, I don't know, it just become or be consistently easy? And it's like what you say, it's not that way.
No, and look, you hear about it all the time. Like, think about how many people who you've met, and they're like, "Oh, when we first got together, like we would go on dates, and we would like have like movie nights, and we would do this, and we
Mm,
would do that." And then like 5 years on, it's like all of that's gone, the
sit
effort's
on the
gone,
couch in your
the
tracksuit pants like we both are
yeah,
right now.
the relationship is shit.
Yeah.
And look, I guess there's it makes sense. There's comfort factors around it. Like,
Yeah.
when we first met, you would never just drop your guts and fart in front of me,
I
right?
still don't.
Real is the first word of your podcast, isn't it? Yeah. So, and vice versa.
I
Like,
feel safe.
you know, I used to tell you, like, I think I told you, like, 3 months after we got together, like, I used to wake up each morning, like, excuse myself and go to the bathroom on the second level and just, like, drop, like, a 20-second fart of all the farts I've
Because
hung onto.
now that I'm with you and I have heard your farts,
I don't fart.
I'm like, the second word of this podcast is called raw.
Yep.
I'm like, how the hell did you ever hold in
All those
your,
farts.
yeah, you must have had some serious irritable bowel syndrome.
No,
Or like
I think
bloatedness.
I was just half asleep and half holding in my sphincter for
Oh.
the entire night. But
Yeah.
yeah, so those aspects, like I get why that goes
Yeah.
away because it's like that actually probably to me is more like coming into your truth because you're like, hey, come on, like you and I fart, we're both humans,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
not going to
yeah.
run away to fart.
Yeah.
Let's just be comfortable enough to fart, right?
Like you just, what do you always say? It's just ill.
It's just ill.
What do you always say? Why do we judge air that comes? No, what did you say the other day?
No, that was different. I said,
Oh.
isn't it weird how air can go out of our buttholes, but we can't breathe through it?
Yeah, these are the high level conversations that Steve and I have on a Saturday night.
Yeah, but it's still weird, like how it's a one-way thing. But
yeah, it's true. Anyway,
but yeah. So anyway, so that those bits I get, but the other thing I think that it's more important is that if you're in a relationship, if I was in a relationship now, if we have times where we do like go off and you can feel it,
yeah,
the way that we always solve it,
mm.
either unconsciously without having to talk about it because we just
Mm.
both know,
Mhm.
or by actually stopping and saying, hey, this week
Yeah,
feels off.
yeah,
Let's both fucking show up again
yeah,
and we reconnect and
Mhm.
we bring it, right?
yeah. And it was off for us the last couple of weeks. You had felt that like when the girls came back, you felt like it was another layer of like dadness, like the next layer of being responsible and I guess keeping the girls in check.
Yeah, there's always that. I mean, you get that perfect storm. Like you're busy, you're working on, your podcast, you're working on your
Book.
book, you're
Yeah.
working on this, you're working on that. Then the girls are here, so there's responsibility there. And then, in between all that, somewhere I've got to, squeeze in watching Netflix, right? So, um,
Yeah, our connection definitely lapsed the last 2 weeks.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, but so we acknowledged it,
Mm.
and then the solution was to step back in and work,
Yeah.
right? It's no different to like if you've, like I said, you can relate it to anywhere. Like if you've been to gym and then you've come off gym and you've eaten shit for a bit and you're looking down at your gut and you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting a bit podgy. The
Mm.
solution is you re-engage and work.
Yeah.
You clean up your diet, you go
Mm.
back to the gym and you fix it, right?
Same with money.
Same with money.
Mm-hmm.
So what was clear to me in that moment was that if someone wants to have a successful relationship, you need to show up consistently and
Yeah.
realize that you will have to work, that it won't just be there. Anything in life
Yeah.
requires work.
It's
Input
true.
equals output.
Yeah, it's true. And I think one thing that you and I do really well, we have like some really nice practices that are together. Like whenever you go to the gym, I go to my gym, but at least once a day you and I are walking together.
Hmm.
Particularly at nighttime when we take the dogs for a walk around the block. But I think so that's a nice practice that we both have. And a lot of our clearing gets done on those walks. And we speak about it in every month when we talk about our relationship. I think one of the best things that you and I have is how frank we can speak,
Yeah, safe
how
space.
openly and honestly, I know that those last couple of weeks, you and I went for a walk and I said to you, like, this week hasn't felt good. I don't feel connected to you. And when I go into those conversations, I'm mindful to not make it about Steve, as if to say, you're doing this and that's why
Yeah.
we're not connected. So
You've
I'm not
made us
placed
disconnected.
correct. It's actually just how what I'm getting to the core of, like, I fucking miss you. I miss us. I miss feeling close. I miss just snuggling into you and it actually feeling like a snuggle, not like, oh, I guess I better snuggle because we haven't been close. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And remember when I was saying, I can show it diagrammatically with my hands,
If
right?
you're on YouTube
If
watching.
you're on YouTube watching, if you're not, then turn it off, load up YouTube, and you can see it. But my hands are moving in and out. But I said nothing is static,
Yeah.
right? So if this is a relationship and it's good, and then you have a week like that, like what you
Mm,
were talking about,
mm,
right? So there's disconnection, there's less cuddling. You're wondering if something's off with me, I'm wondering if something's off
yeah.
with you. If we don't do anything about it, then
Yep.
the relationship goes like that,
Yep.
right? Now we're more disconnected. So
Yeah.
then we're like, well, fuck, what do we do about it? Well, I'm
It
not going
gets
to
a bit
say
more
anything,
awkward.
so it gets
Yeah.
out and out.
Yeah.
So the only way to bring it back in is you got to work, right?
Mm,
So in that case, we feel that our relationship's either stopped or it's
mm,
gone back a bit. So then we talk about it
mm,
openly,
mm,
frankly.
mm.
We say safe space. That means that, just fucking say what's on your mind,
Yeah.
and I will not judge you or try not to judge you or
Yeah.
just listen,
Yeah.
right? That's the other thing that is really critical.
Yeah.
So many people don't create the space to listen. It
Listen.
becomes a fucking argument. And
Tit tat.
it's like, no,
Mm.
just make an agreement that you'll listen to the other person fully, not respond. You can even write it down if you want. Just get all the points out. Then it's your turn. Talk it all out. And then you
Yeah.
can go, okay, cool. Well, this is clearly where
Mm.
we're differing. Then let's discuss it. It's
Mm.
a much more constructive method of
Yeah.
communication,
Yeah.
right?
And sometimes you and I, in order to reconnect and work so we come closer in, I know that sometimes you and I aren't quite ready to talk. So you and I will send a consciously, I want to say constructed, but I don't mean like, it's manipulative. We consciously construct a message so that
Text message.
yeah, so that the other person knows, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm thinking. I'd like you to think about this. So it's our way of going, I'm letting you in to let you know where I'm at. I'm not okay, or I miss you, or I didn't like X. And then usually when you and I would go for our walk at night, someone will say, let's talk it out.
Yep. Let's talk it out. It's exactly right. And
Yeah.
that talking out process is then what brings you closer,
Closer.
because you're putting in the work to fix it.
Mm,
You're not relying on the other person. You both show up equally, and you
yeah.
both acknowledge the fact that you've both played a part. And that's another one.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
it's
not
not
just
always
one.
a fault. I get that there's always an asterisk, and I put on every time we have an
Yeah, I know.
episode. Like, if you're with a fucking narcissist, or with someone who's like,
Mm,
deliberately trying to fuck you or whatever else. I'm talking about two people who are legitimately interested in being in a relationship together,
mm,
who want to have a good relationship together, but who are struggling to find
mm.
the
Ways to
tools
come
that
back.
they need in
Mm,
order to do that. Um, that's where this works,
yeah.
right? Um, and yeah, I just think, I mean, it sounds super, super simple, but
But often the answers are, right. And I
yeah,
always say this to my clients too, the answers that will serve either your own personal life or your finances or your well being or your relationship, they are painfully simple,
yeah.
like painfully simple.
And I think where what we do, or I can't talk for you, but what I do
Mm,
since I've had that realization is, if we are off, or if you guys are off in your relationship, before you go into attack, I think the most important question you can ask is, am I putting in the work?
mm,
And if the answer to that is no, then that's where you start, right? You start putting in the work,
yeah.
and that's you doing that. And then the law of reciprocity kicks in, and then the other
Mm,
person does that. And it's just a simple concept. Put in the work, and if you're not putting in the work, then choose to, and
yeah.
then see where you go from there. But if you constantly put in the work, and we generally do,
Mm.
you have you have a good little relationship.
Like for you, the last 2 weeks, could you feel that we were off?
Yes.
Yeah. How?
Not 2 weeks. I can feel when we're off, and I can feel when we're on.
Well,
It's
I'm
it's
not saying the last 2 weeks we were, but the last,
I think when you have a very consistent relationship like we have,
yeah,
because there's
we're
relationships
not
out there
tumultuous.
that are
Yeah.
fucking up, down, up, down, up,
Mm,
down, right? But when you have one like ours where it's very consistent, you can feel it like you can feel if you've got a puncture in the car. Like, the
yeah,
second you
yeah,
you,
yeah.
you you get in that car, and you're like, the second you start driving, you're like, something feels off, and you
Mm,
go and check out
mm,
what it
mm,
is.
mm,
That's the best way I can explain it. So
mm,
yes, I definitely feel when we're either out of sync, or something's there that needs to be cleared.
mm,
Because if you work on the assumption, which I do, that we both love each other, and that hasn't been some cosmic shift that makes you want to fucking bail, then it's
mm.
like, okay, well, the only thing that there can be throwing this off is that there's something going on that we have to clear.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes, you're quicker to the party to get the clearing happening, and sometimes I am, but
Mm.
we get it there quickly,
It's very true.
which is why we don't have long-term
Mm.
um, arguments, and why there's not a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting, because when you actually start to operate that way, my previous relationship was, fuck me, it was like being strapped to a fighter jet, just
Yeah.
up and then down and then up and then down. And like, I I'm the constant, right? So what I mean by that is that I've lived both versions, and life is just so much easier
Mm.
when it's consistent, and when
Mm.
it's calm, and when it's non-confrontational.
Mm.
So it definitely can be done. It's just a very conscious process to make sure that happens.
Yeah. I was going to say something and then I totally forgot what it was.
So because you're looking deep into my
I'm,
eyes,
I'm
and
like, I fully just got immersed in what you were saying. And I was saying to myself, remember what you were going to say. And now I forgot. So now I don't like you.
oh,
No, I'm kidding.
let's
No, that's what I was
clear it.
going to say. There's a few other things, right? So that's one part in doing the work to keep a good relationship. So also in the last couple of weeks when things were just like you and I both said, you and I by ourselves we're fucking sweet.
Rock and roll.
It's when everything else kind of starts adding in on top where we have to work harder. And when we don't work hard, it's really easy for us to be like, fuck you, whatever, you know?
And sorry. And this is a really important one.
I remember my point and now you just...
Hang on a minute. This is a really important one for the parents out there.
Yeah.
Right? Because my girls who are now 16 and 14, I know they listen to this podcast.
We love you.
And you and I both know that you guys are a pain in the ass because we tell you, right? So I've got to talk about you quickly to the parents out there because you know what? Kids are hard work, right? They are little...
They're not meant to be easy work.
No, they're not.
Are they? No, they're not.
They're little narcissists. They're finding their way through life. You know, they're all about them. You know, they can bring total fight to a calm household. They can, you know, bring drama and fighting, whatever else. And I guess it's you know, the parents out there and people in families, they're the ones that probably, you know, this is the most important because it's so easy to lose your way.
I know.
Because you're like, well, where do we fit?
Where do we
because
fit? Yeah.
We're now
where do we
parents.
get a minute? Yeah.
Right. And so I guess in terms of that, because we live half our lives as effectively dinks, right? Double income, no kids, you know, and
we doggies.
We're doggies. And we live half our lives as like a family. And the two versions of those lives are literally chalk and cheese. You know, one you can be completely selfish because it's just about us and, you know, you don't have to worry about anyone else and whatever else. And then the other half is like, you know, we've got schedules, we've got this, we've got that, we're supporting people, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and you got personalities that you're working with too
in the house. So we have to work really hard in those weeks where the girls are with us, where like we make time like for that walk. Yeah, and that may be the only time that we really get to spend. That's properly during the day. But that walk, which we actually got from your parents, because we talked to Kat's parents a lot about, well, what was life like, you know, when Kat was a little turd, and her dad said, your mum and I would always make time to go and walk the dogs. And it was in those moments where we would have the space to really talk about what's going on with the kids. Yeah. And also how we're going to be a team and go back there. So, you know, that's a perfect example of the work. And what I mean by work is that you got to make that time. I know you might not feel you can, but it's like find that 20 minutes where you guys can line up and go.
Even if it's like in the shower, you know, you're having a shower and the other person is sitting on the fucking bathroom floor. Sometimes you and I, we have those moments where you might be, I don't know, shaving your nose hair and I'll be having a shower. Not that you have nose hair, sorry. I'm now I'm using the relatable part of the podcast.
Yep.
Or I could be plucking my chin hair, right? If I'm going to throw us both into the fire, right? Because I have one very strong chin hair that just keeps coming back. I think it's good right now. But yeah, sometimes that's our moment.
Yeah.
Where one's in the shower, one's on the floor, or I sit in the bath with no water in the bath and I'm in my clothes and we'll talk.
Yep.
You know, like that can be the 10 minutes. It doesn't have to look fucking perfect at dinner with a glass of wine and a, you know, spaghetti bolognese. It can look as raw as that. And that's your time. Yep. You know, that's the work.
Totally. And I guess, you know, the relationship may not be as amazing as it was when you first met and it was just the two of you, but you can find a way to bring it into your new version of, you know, what is good and to know that you're not losing yourselves in the process.
Yeah.
And look, you know, like so many times, like we've met people and like I'll specifically say mums because most of your clients and the people who come to your events are, you know, mostly female. And, you know, Kat and I have run courses together and so many times you hear about people and they're like, I've forgotten who I am.
Yeah.
Through the process of having a family and a kid, and my relationship with my husband or my partner is like, it's not good anymore. And it's like, that hurts.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, no one wants that. Like when you first go about, you know, having your kids, you think it's going to be like a fucking postcard.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really sad where at the end of it all, that original relationship breaks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, you know that. You know that.
Totally.
But also too, the other 2 points that I wanted to make, so I don't forget that. So we've talked about one aspect of doing the work to stay close, to make a relation, to keep your relationship alive and the embers burning. Another one in those last couple of weeks, when the outside of us was feeling like it was coming in on us, you and I, we were complaining a bit. You know, we were pissed off, like we were frustrated. And I remember on one of our walks, I started asking you, like, do you know, remind me of your dreams, remind me of your goals, remind me of your intentions. What are you going after? What matters to you? And, you know, I said that I'm bringing this up and I'm bringing this to the table so we don't use this time on our walk to complain again and bitch again. And part of keeping close is like, remind me what matters to you so I can support you. And then you ask me what matters to me and what am I focusing on and how can I support that? Because in that, I remember that Steve has his own dreams. Steve has his own desires. And maybe I'm not mindful of that. Maybe if he's looking for or is going after a peaceful environment, and if I'm being a fucking, you know, Tasmanian devil, then I'm not contributing to that. But if I don't ask you and if I don't check in with you with where you're at and what's important, then I'll continue being a Tasmanian devil, not knowing that he's wanting a peaceful environment. And then that can really easily contribute to see you later, alligator.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And that was really important because I thought it was important to bring that to the table. So, like I said, we weren't bitching. We just kind of went, oh, yeah, you're a human who has dreams, who has desires. And I want to remember that.
Hmm.
So, that was another part of bringing us closer together and doing the work. And then another example I wanted to share was when we went to Dalesford and we went out for dinner and it was just us. And I wrote out those 3 questions that Nova sent, or 4 questions. And my beautiful friend Nova, her and her partner, they often ask these really awesome questions when they go out for dinner, and Nova will share them with me. I thought I'll try that with Steve, right? And that, again, is part of doing the work. Like you and I are nearly 7 years into our relationship. And there's so many things that we can talk about, and it can be really easy to talk about the superficial stuff or kids or problems or whatever it may be. And instead, I said tonight, like, we'll order our food and then let's ask each other questions. And, you know, you shared with me stuff that, like, I didn't know. You shared with me that you were currently going through like a shift and that you were finding that challenging, and you felt a little bit off and shaky. I'm like, fuck, man, I didn't know that, you know? And then so I felt closer to you and like, I want to take care of your heart and you in that in that change, in that process. And yeah, that's the work as well. It's not just like when you're shit, it's how can I keep the embers burning even though we're good,
Yep.
you know?
Totally. So I guess in summary, you
You
know,
love fucking summaries,
I like
don't you?
summary. I'm a business
Oh,
guy. It's just what I
I
do.
love all the
I
hot,
like
juicy.
dot points. I like summaries. I like actionable items. But a simple actionable item
It's
from
always good to have an actionable
today's
item.
podcast is,
Ba-bum.
if you want to assess where your relationship at, simply stick your hands in front of you and decide, are you close or are you far apart? And then once you get an intuitive guide as to, I reckon we're about
Yeah, that's
there,
nice.
the next question is,
Put your hands up so people can see it on the video. Yeah.
are you pushing, are you doing the work to move you closer, or are you doing shit work that's pulling you far
Or you're
apart?
not doing the work
Yeah.
that is pushing you further apart.
And just know that your job is to keep doing that.
Yeah. And this is where we've talked about in previous episodes why knowing yourself is so fucking important. Doing the work on yourself, knowing your ego, knowing your persona, knowing your ego tactics, knowing your wounds, right? And I see a lot of clients who are doing the work and maybe their partner isn't. And I know that that's a fucking tough, that's a tough situation. That's another, you know, little asterisk that we're not in that scenario, but we have been in those scenarios before. And that is a tough one. And that's where you got to start asking yourself hard questions if you're willing to do the work to come in, but you have a partner that isn't doing the work to come in because they're afraid, they're scared, they don't want to look at themselves, talking about feelings, emotions, past wounds is too tough. You know, are you going to be happy in 10 years? Are you going to be fulfilled in 10 years? Because I've seen a lot of my clients who, like, 20, 30 years on from a marriage that started out that way, it's ended,
Mm,
you know? So,
totally.
yeah.
I think we've done a good little wrap up. I'm happy. Thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you in the studio. You're welcome back anytime. Anytime, just message me and I'll find you a slot. And until next time, thank you to all my loyal, happy viewers, and we will see you on the next
Oh
episode.
my God, I love you.